The Cold Truth, Part 3. I'm going to tone this one down a bit. The Cold Truth is a Patreon series where I say things that are uncomfortable, where I say things that are more uncomfortable than usual, things that can make more people than just women hate me, things that can make people in general hate me, things that may make my own family hate me, things that may have people try to track me down, try and find me, try and destroy me, simply because the truth is too cold. That is the cold truth. For those of you who are on Patreon who've seen part 1 and part 2, this one will be toned down a bit more because it is on main YouTube. It is on regular YouTube. But there's going to be some uncomfortable truth on here. Something that most people don't want to hear. Today, the cold truth is we have a generation, a culture, to be more accurate, a culture of horrible parents. This is the MLC, the Mr. Limba channel. This is your host and your brother, Mr. Limba. If you haven't already, grab yourself something cold to drink and kick your feet up. Feel relaxed. Feel like the king that you are. It is time for the men to talk. Many of us on this channel, I found out, are fathers. For some of the women that follow, they are mothers. Some of you have written me and you want to become parents yourselves. Others are wondering, should they adopt children because they don't want to have kids with a woman in this society because of the completely unfair justice system. The family courts, or as I like to call them, the court of destruction. The courts that will make sure that humanity fails if they keep spreading their legal philosophies and rulings, that is. A culture of irresponsible parenting. Yes, the cold truth is we have a culture where people enjoy raw sex, where people want to penetrate and be penetrated without any form of protection. Yes, they like raw, bareback sex without protection. No form of contraceptives. They risk catching the disease. They don't care. It feels too good. Yes, it was random. He met her, she met him. It was offline. 2 days of texting each other back and forth off of POF, plenty of fish, and plenty of fakes. They met each other. They decided to have sex 72 hours after meeting each other online. And they did it raw, without any form of contraceptive, any form of protection, any form of barrier, something to protect them from diseases even. They met each other off of Bumble, off of Tinder, at the mall, at your local grocery shop. They exchange information, 48 hours of conversation. A cup of coffee later, and someone's penis is in somebody's mouth. The cold truth. The cold truth bring a culture, is exposing this culture of whoredom. This culture of whoredom that I cover extensively on this channel. This culture of bad behavior from women. A culture of whores and whoremongers. Of course, we cannot leave the men out, can we? It takes really two people to make this culture happen. Both those who are the whores and those who actively and irresponsibly seek out the whores. This is the cold truth. So it will even piss off red pill men. It will even piss off men who claim to hang with me. Fellow members of the brotherhood. The cold truth is where I weed out those who don't truly stand with and march with the army of the MLC. Whores and, yes, and whoremongers. Those who actively, restlessly, relentlessly seek out the whores. But what is their result? What is the result of their incompetent behavior, their irresponsible behavior, their unprotected sexual practices? The result is a generation of children. But the children themselves is not the main focus of the Cold Truth Part 3. The real focus here are the parents. Why? Why do I choose to focus on this culture? It is not just a generation, it is a culture of irresponsible parents. For the sake of main YouTube, since this part 3, unlike part 1 and part 2, is not on Patreon, I will not post up the pictures because these pictures will get the video taken down. Let's take the internet challenges that have been going around. You have many challenges. The cinnamon challenge, something that can choke you. You have the hot sauce challenge. You have the fire challenge, where you literally light yourself on fire. It seems like most of these challenges are harmful to the young. Of course, we would hope that many adults would not partake in something so foolish, something so unwise, something that can harm you. Hopefully, there aren't any adults participating in those things. But for children, we understand that children can be foolish. And in a country like the United States of America, in most Western countries, where people are considered children till they are about 18 or even 21, right? You could expect everyone below 21 or below 18 to behave like children, even though technically by the time you're 15, you are an adult, both biologically and logically. You may not be as wise as you're going to be throughout life at that moment when you're 15, 16, and 17, But those 3 ages, which are still considered childhood in most places legally, most Western countries legally consider those ages childhood, truthfully, you are an adult. You can think about what you're doing. You can think of repercussions. You can think of the consequences and use an intelligent approach to try to avoid the consequence of the bad act or the bad decision that you are making. Many of us remember being 15, 16, and 17. Many of us were 15, 16, and 17 not too long ago. We remember doing things that were wrong, but we would design a plan in order to avoid the consequences of our stupid and poor decisions. And we were, of course, biologically adults. We were biological adults. We were able to reproduce at that age. We actively seek out others who are that age, and some of us, those who are older than us, to have sexual activities with. So yes, a biological and a logical adult, meaning capable of reasoning, understanding consequences, knowing good from bad, knowing what was wrong and what was right. But since we baby our offsprings all the way up to those ages, most of them will do stupid things like an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old would do. So when I say we have a generation, a culture, to be more precise, a culture of irresponsible parenting, I'm talking about from birth to about 18 years old. Should have stopped at 17, but I'm going to throw 18 in there. And in most cases, these human beings, which are the offsprings of the former generations, they are irresponsible from birth till about mid-30s. They still act like children up until their mid-30s, all the way up there. That is the cold truth. Recently, we had the craze, the very creepy bug-eye, chicken face, wet hair girl that's been showing called the momochallenge. Now, many articles have come out saying that the momochallenge was a hoax, that it was not real. Apparently, they were saying that children would text this number and they would receive a challenge from this character called Momo. Now, of course, you guys can go online and look up this Momo and see what the image looked like as you watch this video, or later on, or however you want to do it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Of course, for the sake of keeping this video up, since this is not on Patreon like part 1 and part 2, I cannot post that picture up because they have been taken down and flagging many videos that contain that picture or that has the thumbnail. So if you are a YouTuber and you have that thumbnail up, you might want to change it in order to protect your video. All right. So this character would creep out the children, the young people of our culture. And I heard that it would make certain threats to them if they didn't do what it said to do. And usually what it asked the kids to do was to harm themselves. Of course, many Christians went out there, they called this demonic. I mean, it was not too difficult to combine, one, the physical appearance of the character, this animation type of character, to the wicked deeds that it was asking these children to perform on themselves, to demonize it, to call it an evil spirit. Now, I am not saying it's not evil. But the point is, it took the internet by surprise. It took the internet by storm. It was so popular that everybody was posting and talking about it. I even wrote many comments about it in many people's comment sections. But the reason I decided to come here today and bring this cold truth to tell you guys that parents in this culture, in the Western culture, are in majority, not all of them, but in majority, are absolute failures. Yes, if this just pissed you off, I am glad. If this just pissed you off, I am happy, because it is the cold truth. It is my purpose to offend you. It is my goal. I wish to piss you off. I want to ruin your sleep. I want to ruin your lunch and your dinner. I want you angry. Because hopefully this anger will bring about some change. And this change may just save the next generation. I don't know about the rest of you brothers, but I hate irresponsible parents with a passion. Irresponsible parents are like women who flake on dates. They are extremely unaccountable. But a difference between them and a woman who flakes, a difference between them and anyone else, for that matter, who does anything that is irresponsible, is that they have the lives of young people in their hands. They have the lives of the future of mankind in their hands. They had the audacity, they had the drive, the energy to have unprotected sex, but then developed the balls to not properly parent. The question becomes, where are these parents? Let's take R. Kelly, for example. If R. Kelly had a underage female in his house, and let's say she was 16, let's say she was 15, let's say she was 17, let's put emphasis on in a state where that is not the age of consent. Because of course, in certain places around the world, if a girl is 16 or a boy is 16 and 17, they are considered adults. Even in the US, there are states like that. So having sex with one of them would be no different than having sex with someone that is 35 years old, even though I highly do not recommend it. But my point is, if they are in a state where that is considered illegal, where they have to be 18 in order for anyone above the age of 18 to have sexual intercourse with them. If your daughter is 17 or 16 or 15 and she's at a 50-year-old man's house, and you are aware of this as a parent, and you are displeased by this as a parent, you are unhappy by this event as a parent, and you do absolutely nothing about it as a parent, whatever punishment they dish out to the offender, the man who had sexual intercourse with this young woman, if he gets 10 years in prison, the parent should also get 10 years in prison. You see, let me make this clear for you. All of you who are already not feeling good about what I'm saying, remember, this is the cold truth. Something that's normally put on Patreon. But I'm going to water it down today for you. So if this is too much, you definitely don't want to be on Patreon. I'm going to water it down for you, and I'm going to put it into perspective for you, especially those who are offended by what I'm saying. Because see, those who get offended are the irresponsible parents, or if they don't have children, they are irresponsible parents to be. Let me put it into perspective. Ever heard of an accomplice to a crime? In other words, someone robbed the bank, but you were the driver. You technically did not rob the bank, but you were aware of the crime. You aided in the crime, or you failed to report the crime. There are punishments for acts like that. A culture of horrible parents. Yes, please get offended. One father was asked, did you know your daughter was at R. Kelly's house? The R&B singer, for those of you who do not know. The man who sings I Believe I Can Fly. He's very famous for that song. Did you know he was above the age of 18? Yes, the father replies. Did you know that your daughter was below the legal age to consent on her own to have sexual intercourse? Now, it doesn't mean she doesn't know what sex is. It doesn't mean the daughter doesn't want to sleep with R. Kelly. It doesn't mean the daughter cannot choose whether or not she is turned on and wish to have sex. It just means the law forbids her and forbids R. Kelly from having sex with her because of her age. That is what that means when you're not legally capable of consenting or agreeing. Meaning you can agree, you can even biologically agree because your body's turned on, but you cannot legally agree. Okay? So the father replies, yes, I was aware of all of this, which confirms that the father and the mother knew that this illegal act was going on. So they asked the father and the mother, what did you do? Knowing that your little girl was over there. The parents reply, I didn't know what to do. See, the truth is they wanted the money. The truth is they wanted to get a piece of the pie that Mr. Kelly was providing. You see, but when they did not get this money, the cold truth is they decide to see if they can get him a different way. Maybe get him put in prison. And once that's over, well, write a book. My story. My horror story regarding R. Kelly. My horror story facing R. Kelly. R. Kelly, the hidden truth. Great titles. They're going to make some money off of him anyway. The truth is the parents were aware, but they were being bad parents. They were pimping their own daughters. And their daughters wanted to be there. You see, if you're 15, 16, and 17, you know what sex is. You get aroused and you want to have sex. So if you agree to go and sleep with someone you know that legally you should not sleep with, you know you're breaking the law. And for the girl's parents, if they know their daughter's over there and they're not reporting it, you're an accomplice to what is happening. And for the man who is above 18 who wishes to go below the age limit and break the law, he also is aware of what he is doing. Everybody, all three parties, the parent, the girl, and the legal rapist, as they would call him, a guy who broke the law, not saying he's an actual rapist, but legally he is considered that, right? Or allegedly, since the process is still going on. Let's put allegedly. He also is aware. So if he gets 15 years in prison, the parent should also get 15 years in prison. You were aware, you did nothing, you knew what was going on. It is time that we bring responsibility and accountability back to parents. That is why many black men can say that they were raised by black women alone, their mothers, and she most of the time did a horrible job. But yet she keeps herself standing apart, calling herself guiltless. She is not guilty in her own eyes, because we have unaccountable and irresponsible parents. Now, the so-called minor who had sex, the underage young woman who had sex, if you're 15, 16, and 17, you should be charged too. That's right. If you left your parents' house deliberately, like many of them did, and went off with this grown man to live with him, let me put emphasis on live with him, and this is a very common thing that happens all the time. The only difference is R. Kelly's a celebrity, so the news came out. This is happening as we speak. Many people have their teenage daughters who leave their homes because they had a quarrel, a fight with their parents. And where did you think she went? She's unemployed. She doesn't have any money. She's definitely not with a 17-year-old boy, because his parents would not let her come live with them without asking the proper questions. And even with the proper questions, most people are not into the business of bringing another teenager that is not their own into their homes, risking possible teen pregnancy. So most of these young women are going into a grown man's home. Somebody usually north of 25 years old. Somebody with an apartment, a studio, a flat, in efficiency. A small place, maybe a big house. Because a lot of young women are with men in their 30s. They're still young men, but legally they shouldn't be with him. They deliberately take themselves there. We need to bring back accountability, and the cold truth is necessary. Remember, guys, this is watered down because I got to keep it this way. This is not Patreon. This is the cold truth. Part 3. Yes, the parents should suffer too. You knew what was happening and you did nothing because you are an irresponsible person who thought it was a great idea to have unprotected sex. It is time that you pay. You knew your daughter or your son, like the 13-year-old boy who got his teacher pregnant. At the age of 13, he got his teacher pregnant. His parents was sending him over to spend the night with the teacher. He would sleep at his female teacher's home. The teacher is not a family member. The teacher is not a friend of the family. She is someone you met at the school who happened to be assigned to your son. Why is your son sleeping at her home? These parents are aware. It is a culture of horrible parenting. Now, if this teacher had a man come over every night and he sodomized that young boy, it would have been a horror story when he turns 30, 40, or 50 and he wants to come forward with what happened to him. Because we have irresponsible parents. This is the cold truth. I got to keep saying that. This truth is cold. Now, let's go back to these internet challenges. Let's talk the momo challenge. Yes, this figure is apparently telling kids over the web in their phones through texts and however else telling them to commit harm to themselves, harm that even cause them to take their own lives. Parents are in uproar. Oh my goodness. But here's the real question. Why the heck aren't they doing their jobs? Why in the hell are they not doing their jobs? Now you see, many of you are going to tell me, Mr. Limba, I don't know what you want parents to do. People have to work. People are single parents. You cannot watch everything your kids do. Blah, 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 blah. I hear irresponsible adults talking. I'm here to hurt your feelings. You understand? I'm here to point out all of those who are irresponsible. These whores having children and these whoremongers that are having children. Women who wish to behave nowhere pure when it comes to being sexual. And men who seek no pure women when it comes to being sexual. Especially sexual without protection, without contraception. Sexual in a way that is dangerous, in a way that reproduces other human beings. It is despicable. It is sick. It stinks in our culture, and I'm calling it out. It is the cold truth. Deal with it. Let me ask you a question. How many of you would take your children? If you don't have children, take a niece, a nephew, a child that is dear to you, that you love. How many of you would take this child, walk into a crowded mall, release this child? Let's say a child about 5 to 12 years old. And you would just release this child into this mall full of strangers, without a cell phone, without anything. Just let this child go with no way of seeing or checking on what they're doing. No chaperone, no supervision. Just let the child go into a mall wherein it is Black Friday, where there's a lot of people out there doing the holidays, doing Christmas. How many of you would turn a child into a park full of people doing a concert? How many of you would turn a child loose into a bar full of drunken people? Full of drunk, loud, vomiting, falling over strangers. How many of you would take a child between the age of 8 and 12 and put them into a house of swingers and orgies where people are laying there naked and having sex, and you would leave and walk away? How many of you feel comfortable leaving a child you care about with a bunch of strangers? It is something to think about. Now, of course, you're saying, oh no, I wouldn't. What's your point? It's not the same. It is the common speech of irresponsible people. And in this case, many irresponsible parents, their main go-to is to deflect, to beat around the bush, beg the question, make straw man arguments. Well, you see, the internet, let's call it what it was called back then, what we used to call it more often, www. Remember that? The www dot? Yeah. World Wide Web. Worldwide. World. In other words, when your kid is surfing, when your child is surfing, they are out there loose and open to everyone. They are connected to people who are above their age. People who should not be communicating to a minor or a child without the parent's consent. Ever told your kids don't talk to strangers? Well, if you don't want your kid talking to one stranger, you of course would not let them loose in a public place to interact with many strangers on their own, right? So why do you let them loose on the web to interact to a bunch of people and with a bunch of people without your supervision? On the web, you got pedophiles. On the web, you have drug pushers. On the web, you have supernatural things, demonic presence, things that can attack your child's psychology, mindset, make them insane. On the web, on the internet, you have racism, you have sexism, you have online masturbators, you have pornography, you have orgy, you have homosexuality, you have forms of sodomy, you have torture, you have murder, you have hypnosis, you have terror and terrorism. But yet you turn over your children to all of these people via, however you pronounce it, through a iPad, tablet, their phones, their laptops, the television, the video games. You don't monitor a damn thing. But you're still busy screwing raw. You're trying to make more children to turn over to this mess. More children that you want to have irresponsibly. And you call yourself a parent. You're pathetic. That is what you are. A sad excuse for a mom and for a dad. That is the cold truth. Now deal with it. It hurts me when people are so careless with their kids. Now you're going to tell me, what can I do? Well, the same way you spend money on your stupid shoes, your snap caps, your jerseys, those dumb Christmas gifts that you spend money on. You couldn't spend money on an app that allows you to see what your kids are surfing. I mean, there are apps out here where you can allow your kid these 4 or 5 websites to go onto, these topics that they cannot research. And if they attempt to go on a website that you did not approve, you get a notification on your own phone. And you can read it and determine whether or not you should approve it. Matter of fact, you may call your kid. When they pick up, you go, what are you trying to go on that site for? What is it for? What are you trying to do? Mom, I want this. Dad, I was just trying to go on there for school, or my friend was showing me something. Who's your friend? Where did you meet them? What is their name? Do I know them? Good old parenting. Interrogating your kids, questioning your kids is part of parenting. Knowing who their friends are is part of parenting. Before they sleep over, make sure that there isn't a creep in that house, if you are foolish enough to still do sleepovers. I wouldn't even do a sleepover in my own house where I can watch my own kids, because I don't want their friends and their friends' parents accusing me of being a creep, because false accusations are also at an all-time high. You don't need to sleep over. Skype that fool. Talk to him on your laptop where you can see him. There is no need to sleep over. Sleepover was when we didn't have the technology we have now. You can talk to him. You see him on Facebook. You could FaceTime him. You can do everything. There is no need to come to my house, and there's no need for my kids to go to anybody's house. That is the cold truth. Parents will spend money on a bunch of stupid stuff. But you won't take the time to go online and research apps and research softwares and programs that monitor what your kids do online. Softwares that send notifications to your own phone. A generation of irresponsible parents. A culture, because it's more than one generation of them. It is just a culture found in the West, where parents think their kids are their friends, where they forget to be the father and the mother, but instead they are the cool buddy of their own child. Step it up, people, because many of you simply suck. That's the cold truth. Now, I want you guys to think about that. I want you guys to take notes if you are a parent, if you want to become a parent, and if you know some parents. See if there's any accountability, any responsibility, any effort on the side and on the end of those who produce these human beings to make sure they watch them properly. You had kids pouring flammable liquids on themselves and lighting themselves on fire. And parents were completely out of the loop. They didn't know what was going on. Heck, some parents go online and try it with their kids. But it's another story. But I'm tired of these unaccountable, irresponsible human producers, because I can't call them parents. This is Mr. Limbo with the cold truth watered down for YouTube. The kind of video usually provided on Patreon. Until next time, keep taking in the cold truth. Peace.